Whoa, hi. I want to tell you about Blackwood House. This is the second tiny house I made. The first one was a stone cottage, and this one I made out of a shipping box, popsicle sticks for the wooden clapboard, and then the slate tile is made of egg cartons and watercolor, and then I hand sculpted some clay stones for the chimney. I've been working on this for about a year. I know lots of people who are into doll houses are like really interested in scale, and I've had a couple people ask like, oh, what scale are you working in? And I just made up the scale. Like I don't really have, it's not like 1/12 or 1/16 or anything. It's just a bunch of tiny stuff. I don't usually work with figures when I'm, actually I don't ever work with figures except my own body. But in order to figure out the scale for this, I made this tiny invisible balsa wood person form silhouette so that I could hold things up to it and be like, would this person be able to sit in this stool? Or like, would this person drink out of a teacup that's this big? And that was really helpful for me in trying to figure out, fantasy scale, fantasy story. The first cottage that I made, I think it's a couple of years ago now that I started it, I really pictured this like single woman in her 50s or 60s, like living out in the woods, like maybe on the edge of a small town by herself. And for this house, Blackwood House, I definitely picture, closer to in the village, maybe like up on a cliff somewhere. And the people who live here are Ms. Blackwood and her niece, who's staying permanently from the city, and Miss Blackwood has a baby. So the baby and the niece are cousins, and the two women play music together. One of them plays lute and one of them plays harp, and the baby hangs out and listens to them. And then the cousin, the youngest lady who lives here, is a writer, and she lives up in the attic, and the attic is filled with like, sorry, there's a squeaky car going by. I can't tell if you guys can hear that. Hi, sorry, that went on for about 7 minutes. So the writer who lives in the attic has a couple of quills and some scrunkled up pieces of paper that she's done with, and there's this theme of red throughout the whole house. My next project, I think, is going to be a red barn. I think that the writer who lives on the attic here, in the attic here, is maybe writing a story about the red barn. I really liked doing the hand-painted wallpaper in the kitchen. I feel like these people have, the house is definitely a little bit fancier than the stone cottage. I'm not sure if Miss Blackwood has maybe an inheritance or like something from her dead husband or something, but I also figured that she teaches music lessons to support the household, and I like the idea of this sort of non-traditional family unit, like multiple people living in this small home together. This project was the first time that I made clay food, which is something that I've been watching videos of and looking at on the internet for years and years. And actually, when I was a really tiny kid, I used to make Sculpey food for my American Girl dolls. I wish I had pictures, but I remember making like a chicken dinner with a whole like chicken leg and a little pile of mashed potatoes, and then I rolled green peas individually and like glued them down on a plate with some glue on top to make it look glossy. And I feel like this is definitely a continuation of that stuff. All right, do you want to come up here? Do you want to come up? You want to come up? Can't wait. I had a lot of fun making color in this project. I think that the exterior is really drab and kind of scary or imposing looking, and then the inside is full of these like bright, sort of Swedishy inspired painted surfaces. There's like lots of painted furniture in here, which is really fun. I want to make like maybe 12 of these, maybe 13 of them. Initially I was like, oh, maybe someday I'll have a gallery show, and when COVID is doing less scary things, like maybe that's a possibility. Yeah, I would love to do that someday. Okay.
This chandelier has real beeswax candles.
A little red wool blanket inside of this chest. I lost wax cast this bed in brass and then used white nail polish, which I chipped off to make it sort of look like enameled cast iron. And then I made a little mattress and added this little spice colored linen blanket on top. This painting is a copy of one that was in my dad and his partner's house. I'm not sure who painted the original, but it's hanging in their kitchen. Both the imaginary people who live in this house play instruments. One plays harp and one plays the lute. The teacup and teapot are both made out of bronze that I enameled and then drew on with Sharpie. This baby bassinet is made of balsa wood. This tiny jar full of amaranth and capped with a real cork is made from gel nail polish that I baked under a UV lamp.